excited. I am so excited that you are about to have some time with someone that I respect so much, someone that inspires me, inspires all of us, and keeps us on our toes.
When was the last time you set foot in Southern Africa? But you find time to go to NFL games and... I'm so sorry. You know what? I just give up. I'd rather work in the private sector and actually get something done.
Susan.
Thank you for taking a chance on me. Madam Secretary, you can consider this my resignation.
So this is like grad school. I haven't made out in a closet in decades.
I'm gonna give you one chance not to lie. Who are they? Where did you meet them?
They came to my office. They brought me here.
How many are there?
I don't know.
But rest assured, nothing happens at Arkham not according to his wishes.
What are you doing to me?
You're to be the face of our rehabilitation program. If we can cure a man like Oswald Cobblepot, we can cure anyone.
She put antifreeze in the water. Jacoby is antifreeze.
They can't hear you.
Oh.
You can't help them. Don't you understand? They are going to die. And there is nothing you can do about it. What are you doing? No! No!
Listen, I won't kill you. But I'm also not gonna let you kill anybody after you've turned.
It's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be this way.
And we gotta remember that Pharaoh's army, they got drowned in the Red Sea. Oh, Mary, don't you weep. Tell your sister Martha, tell Martha not to moan.
So I want to introduce to you and present to some others, Miss Tonya Pinkins.
Hello, Angela. It's such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. So I wanted to do this for many reasons because I'm just so proud to know you. But one of the main reasons is because I wanted to take this opportunity publicly to tell you how grateful I am to you for walking your dream, for walking your truth. I was able to witness that firsthand. I understudied Tanya in my very first Broadway show, and to watch you work was a masterclass every day.
Oh,
and because of that, I remember asking you, where did you study? Like, where did you learn to do that? And you told me Bill Esper. And my husband had gone to Mason Gross and gotten his master's degree with Bill Esper. So I had heard the name already, and you just confirmed it. And I thought, I got to find this man if he could teach me to do that. And I did, and it was the best 2 years of my life. Yeah. And I never got to thank you personally for that and for your generosity through the entire process, because a lot of times leading ladies that you understudy, you know, you just better stay in the corner and you be quiet, you know, but you weren't that way. You were very generous the whole time to me. And I just want to thank you. Thank you.
Well, I have to say that, you know, there's this phrase they say, amateurs borrow and geniuses steal. So I'm going to put myself in the genius category because I stole from you my first show-stopping moment, which was in that show. I always say that an understudy should be better than the performer, because if the understudy is talented, they have the ability to steal everything that the person they're understudying is doing, but they also get to see all the holes, so they should be a little bit better. And because I had to go off and do another job, I got back in time to witness you perform in Play On. And I was like, oh, that shit right there is good. And I know I came to you right after it and I said, oh, Angela, that thing you did right there, I'm gonna steal that. Watch me tomorrow night. And with what you did and what I did, it became my show-stopping moment in a show that had a lot of show-stopping moments because it was the singers of life, Carl Anderson and Yvette Casson and Andre DeShields and Larry Marshall. I mean, it was like, and it was such an intimidating thing for me to be up there with all those singers. And so you gave me my show-stopping moment. It was terrifying for me to be in that show.
I would never have known that. But, oh, thank you. I would never have known that. And you got a Tony nomination for that show.
Yes, I did. I did.
Oh, my goodness. It was such a joy to watch you. And the fact that we lost Lawrence Hamilton.
And Carl Anderson.
And Carl Anderson. I mean, geniuses and genius singers. But I would never have known that you didn't feel, I mean, I feel that way in musicals most times. But I didn't know you would.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I can't get up and sing in front of these children.
Oh, but you know what, you guys, in rehearsal, she would give us a pure acting lesson. She did what we were taught to do. Live a song, live through a song. I never saw Tanya just sing a song. She would have us crying, laughing. It was just so, we all just sat there. Every time we got ready for her solo, we would just go sit and go, what is she gonna do today? And it was never the same. And it was that way on stage as well. It was never the same.
I don't know if you remember this moment.
What?
And I'm sharing this because it was a thing that happened between Sheldon and I. So there was a moment in the show that Sheldon wanted to cut. And, you know, he was a nice person, so he didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So he came to me before rehearsal and he said, look, you know, I want to cut this thing. I don't want to do it. But so what I want you to do is before we get to it, I want Lady Liv to have a tantrum and say, I can't do it. And so that was our little secret. And I remember when we went in there and I did it and everybody thought it was real. And I saw people running off to their phones to like go, Tonya Pinkins has lost her mind here. But me and Sheldon had already planned that.
See, I wasn't in on that. I wasn't in on that.
Okay.
But, oh my goodness. And did they cut it?
They cut that, they kept the tantrum. And that's how we didn't get to that next moment that they wanted to cut.
Wow. Wow. So you've been doing that for a long time. And that time it was the director's fault. But I want to talk about so many things. You got so much stuff going on. And I just want to pick your brain about so much of it.
Okay.
The first thing, your film.
Yeah.
Your feature film that you directed, star in, produced, and wrote.
Yes.
The Red Pill.
Costume design, post-production producer, a whole lot of things.
Did you enjoy it?
I am loving it. It is like, this is what I was born to do.
Yeah. Because this is where you have, this is your voice. This is where you
my vision. I get to guide it, lead it. It's, I don't know what took me so long. I mean, yes, I do know what took me so long, but now that I've done this, the thought of going back and like being, you know, somebody else's tool does not feel very appealing.
Well, it wouldn't, because I think you've been trying to get here. Your soul, your spirit has been trying to get here for a long time.
Has been trying to get here for a long time. I'm trying to raise the camera a little higher, you see, get a better angle on myself.
You look beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yes, I like that a little better. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a kind of story that had I waited for, you know, somebody to give me permission or green light, it wouldn't have happened, because so much of the storytelling we get out of Hollywood is always centering a white person. Even if there's a Black person who's the center, they want to have some white heroes or savior figures in there. It's lovely that Ava doesn't do that and Issa doesn't do that. But even in Orange is the New Black, it had to be about the white girl in order for us to get this invitation into all of these wonderful other people's lives. And so as I've been, you know, sharing the film with people, I came to realize that the other thing white people aren't used to is they're not used to the other's gaze on them. And so when they see my movie, they always give me these notes about how, you know, the white people are not very effectual and they're just so, and I'm like,
Yeah, welcome to my world.
That's my experience of you. And they're not accustomed to that. You know, when they see, I think they're just not accustomed to even having to put their attention on us unless it's in terms of thinking of us as some exotic creature place to explore and tame. But to actually think that we are gazing at them in the same way that they are gazing at us, I can't think of many pieces of art that do that. There's a book that I read called The Radiance of the King, which Toni Morrison said is one of her favorite books, and she wrote the introduction to the translation of it. And it is the story of this white man in Africa who has the audacity to believe that he should be the king's, the right hand to the king because he's a white man. And he goes through this whole thing oblivious to the fact that the Black people are buying and selling him. And he's oblivious to how he is being perceived by them because he just thinks he should be the king's leader and he's being sold into slavery, you know, here and there.
And he doesn't even know it.
He doesn't even know it. And I remember Toni Morrison talked about how that was the first time she had ever read anything where there was a gaze on them, because that is just, we don't get that here in America. And so I feel like my movie does that. And I wrote it for Black people. Warrington Hudlin was gonna give me a screening of it in March before COVID came down, because I feel like Black people are gonna sit there and they'll be like, ha ha, they're gonna figure it out early, they're gonna laugh, enjoy the ride. And white people are like, but why would they, I don't understand. But, no, we wouldn't. They're like, yeah, you would, and you do every day, and we see it, and you don't even know what you be doing. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, certainly a lot of people working on my team love it, get it, but sometimes when they share it with some of their camaraderie, they're like, this is definitely a new perspective.
So why the red pill? What is it? Does it have anything to do with the Matrix?
Of course it has something to do with the Matrix, in that red pill is known in the larger community as from the Matrix, and that in the Matrix, it's about facing up to reality. And so this is a story about facing up to reality, but it's about facing up to the reality that a Black woman sees. Okay, yeah. So it's about putting a mirror up to them about, no, this is how I see the world. Yeah. And also in the sort of subreddit cultures, the red pill men and women are, it's become a real far right meme, red pilling. So it can mean, it has so many meanings, and every one of those meanings is explored inside the movie. But the reality that I'm asking you to see is the reality of how a Black woman sees America. Wow. Look at this reality. This is the red pill I want you to take.
And now I read where you said it had to be a horror story, that you felt like it had to be.
Yeah, because first of all, I think white people are gonna have a hard time accepting it even in a horror story. And then when I wrote it a year ago, you know, it was kind of like a dystopian future, but every day it becomes closer to the reality that we're living. And so I remember I was talking to Steve Hendel about it last year, you know, trying to raise money from him. And he was like, oh, you know, it's a little far-fetched there. And on Twitter last week, he was saying, look at America, look at what's happening. And I'm like, yeah, Steve, I tweeted to him, remember when you thought the ending of my movie was a little far-fetched? And you were like, I was wrong. You're a visionary.
Wow. Wow. And you are. Well, and you are. I cannot wait to see it though. When will it be available to watch? Do you have any dates?
I do not. You know, everything about it has been guided by spirit. I mean, that is true. You know, how many people do you know can write a movie in August and have it in the can in November? It's been divinely guided. And so I just trust and know that it is going to come out in the moment that it is going to have the most impact. And so it's like, I know that that's when it's going to happen. We have lots of interest. you know, there's this moment right now. Do you try to go to the drive-in route? Do you go to a streamer? Like, you know, I don't even know the answer to that. I'm just trusting that when it's to be done, the path will be revealed and it will be the best path for this story to get out there. I had really wanted it, you know, out in March. That was what we hoped. I wanted it to be a kind of get out the vote, like get out the vote or else. But it seems to be having a life of its own. And, you know, God willing, it'll be out before the election. But if not, it's still as valid after the election. Because as I said, it is my Black woman's get out.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Let's look at it. So, okay. Everybody, we're going to show you a little clip of it. We've already gotten this huge tease from Tanya just talking about it. So here's the clip, Red Pill.
We are a majority in this country, and we're going to win the election.
Do you know what the red pill is? A red pill is someone who infiltrates a group and then destroys them from the inside. This place is spooky.
Take it easy.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna go back tomorrow.
I think we should call the sheriff's office.
What is that? What do we do, Amelia?
We die. But we take some of them with us.
You could release it anyway. It's gonna get, just the tease alone, people are gonna wanna see it. They're gonna wanna find out, well, what is this? But I want it to be when we're back, when we're up and running, so that you can take advantage of all the festivals and all that stuff. Cause
that could be a long time. I mean, you know, if this pandemic goes anything like the 1918 pandemic, we're looking at 2022, 23.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna wait that long for the red pill. So
no, the red pill will probably be out before then, but I don't know that we'll be regularly congregating in movie theaters for a while. But the drive-ins seem to be doing very, very well, and horror films are doing well at the drive-ins. And I kind of don't want to miss out on people getting to experience it like in person. So I'm like, you know, can we make a deal where we can get the drive-in thing and the online thing?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's what I would like.
This is the kind of film you want to go to the drive-in.
Mm-hmm.
You hold on to your little sweetie.
Yes.
Things get scary. I like that idea, and the streaming, both. So let's put that out there.
Yes, I stand in agreement with you. Hold that vision for me. Thank you.
Yes, I hold that vision for you, and I'm so proud of you. We have so few writer, directors, actors who are women. Yeah. So
we got Issa, we got Lena. Mm-hmm. Who else? Actor, director, writer, women. Dondre's wife. Sally Richardson.
Oh, Sally Richardson, yes.
Yeah, but there's going to be more, so many more. And I was so lucky to get the cast that I wanted, who I was writing for. Mm-hmm. Like I wrote it for Ruben Blades and for Luva Mason, and then for Catherine Irby, which we all know and love from Law and Order, and then Kathy Curtin, who's on, you know, Insecure and Stranger Things and Homeland and Orange is the New Black, and Colby Menifee, who's on Fear of the Walking Dead and The Boys. Like I got this incredible cast, and that the 10 days that I had to make this movie, all their schedules fit. It was just this kind of divine thing.
Where did you film it?
We filmed upstate New York for Virginia. We had a house that was like built in the 17th century.
Perfect. And you're doing it because I know the work is still going on, post-production, all that stuff.
Yes.
You're in it. And I pray you get many, many more of these. You know, speaking of, you said there are going to be many, you think there are going to be more female actor directors. Do you think the stage is being set by the work that you've done, the work that even Lena has done, speaking out that the stage is being set now for other women to step up into these roles?
Absolutely. I think we've been ready for a long time. And I forgot to mention Rada Blank. You know, she just won Sundance this year. Yeah. So I think we're already there and ready. We're just waiting in the wings for them to let us get on stage. we're there. We have the stories. Sometimes the films are already made. There's plenty of us. If they open the door, we will come flooding through.
Yeah. Do you think that'll take you back to LA?
I don't know. You know, it's like you can live anywhere in the world and do this business now. And I love travel. So, you know, I have 4 other horror movies that I want to tell. And one of them is like Black People and Spiders. That's a trilogy. And I have a dating horror film. So horror is my jam. So, you know, yeah.
Okay. It's always been your jam, horror movie?
I love horror. I love to be scared. I love to scream. My daughter hates watching them with me because I always scream really loud. I love that adrenaline rush. I love it.
Your daughter, how's your singing something daughter?
Maya is wonderful. She's really good. She's living with me now. It's really good to have her here with me.
I know, you know, I babysat Maya when you would go on stage.
Yes.
Oh, when I see her now grown and amazingly talented, I just go, I'm so old, but so proud. So proud.
I feel.
That's, yeah.
I'm my third from the youngest.
That's right. That's right. Because she was your baby when we were together.
Right. And I have 2 older sons.
Wow. I remember them too. And they're all artists.
My second oldest is a school teacher. Okay. And he's also acting, modeling. My oldest is a writer and an actor and a director. And my youngest is a hell of a rapper. Yeah, they're all talented, what they're going to do with it, you know.
Yeah. Well, their mom is a hell of a rapper too. You can spit yourself. Girl, the rap roast. If you guys hadn't seen it, go to YouTube, the rap roast.
Tonya Pinkins rap roast. Oh
Tonya Pinkins versus Tonya Pinkins. Check that out. That was something special to watch. You can spit. You learn from your son.
Fun doing that. That was so fun.
So let's talk about your manifesto.
Okay, well, people calling it a manifesto. Okay, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but okay. I've heard that.
You know, I kept thinking as I read it, and I've read it many times now, but the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this is Tanya's article. And I gave it to my husband to read, and he and I both said, this is a manifesto. So that's what I think it is. It was something else. I mean, was all of that in you just to come out, and the season just spoke to you to do it? Or do you just do that? Do you just write your thoughts and this one you decided to publish?
I think I have a habit of just doing that, and I don't often publish things, but I do often write them. And Medium certainly makes it easier. That was the first time I ever published anything on Medium. I certainly have tried to get things published before, but nothing's ever been accepted. So I'm writing, you know, in that way all the time, and Medium made it possible for me to just put it out there.
And you've gotten some really good feedback from it. I read some of the comments on Medium.
Well, the people who didn't like it aren't going to say anything. They're just going to be waiting for that moment where they can just cut you. That's just the truth.
Well, you know, but in this day and age on social media, people are so social media bold, where they wouldn't be bold in life. They say crazy stuff on social media, and you're like, okay, this person would probably run from me in person.
No, I'm talking about any sort of powerful people who are like, how dare that bitch say that? Okay, well, next time she comes across my desk.
Yeah, the powerful people, yeah.
In the trash can, you know. Though someone who's on faculty at Yale Drama School told me that it is one of 3 pieces of required reading for the Yale School of Drama faculty.
I believe it. Because in the end, I don't know who said it, I think it was Maya Angelou, that it's better that she would prefer someone respect her than like her. And I really think that whether you liked it or not, it really made you respect you. You felt like, wow, I respect her for putting this out here, for expressing herself in this way, and for telling her truth. So were you nervous?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was very, very nervous about it. And yet I think that, well, I know that when I, you know, wrote when I wrote my essay on leaving Mother Courage, I certainly got a lot more attacks on that. I mean, people just came for me for that. And I remember that I felt more alive and authentic in that moment than I'd ever felt. And I had this sense of this reconciliation of opposites and this sort of realization that when you are in the truth, it is a polarizing phenomenon, that truth polarizes. When you are actually standing in a truth, both sides are valid. And so there was that remembered experience of like, oh, I'm walking on the knife's edge. There are people who's gonna love me. There's people who's gonna hate me. Okay, it is your truth. Okay, I can live with that.
You were working on a committee and equity to get a contract together, and you were saying then that those people hated you and that you weren't there to be friends. You were there to make change.
Right.
And that you did. You got the best deal that we had gotten in 40 years, so you made change.
Well,
and
I didn't make it. I just was willing to, you know, George Wolfe said to me once that in order for change to happen, you need someone to infiltrate the room, you need someone to blow up the room, and you need someone to feed the community while it's happening. And that Black people have done the first two, but we didn't do the last one because we depended on integration.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to do all of them. I've gotten to infiltrate the room and bring other people into rooms. And sometimes I've gotten to blow up the room, and many times I've gotten to feed the room. So I feel like I've played all of those roles. At Equity, it was really always blowing up the room. And that got to be just too toxic for me. I realized that I was there because I wanted to make a difference for actors of color. And the agency is just not oriented that way. Most of the negotiations and the arguments were about people saying, oh, if we don't make more money, we'll have to spend our savings. And I'm like, Black people don't have any savings. If the job isn't paying us enough money, we can't do the job because we have to get a job that will pay our bills. We don't have friends who will give us a job to make up the difference or in the between time, or that we can leave and come back to so that we can do this thing that we love. We need our acting jobs to pay our bills. And so sitting there and listening to person after person after person, white person after person talking about, and this is their argument that they're putting forth. I'm like, this is the argument you're putting forth? No, we need to be paid.
Right. Right. Thank you.
It's not a hobby for us. It's not an on the side thing. And though that's not my reality, I have been there. I know that. And so given a platform, I want to speak for the voiceless.
That's what we're supposed to do. I mean, that's not your reality today, but
it's not today, but I know what it is. Been there, could be there tomorrow. We may all be there in a minute after this pandemic. Right. So I do always walk around feeling like there but the grace of God go I.
Yeah. Me too. And so when you're fighting these fights, it's not for you, it's for all of us. It's for the collective. Yeah. The name of the manifesto, before I forget, is Why I'm Fed Up with Performative Activism from White and Black Theater Makers. Performative activism, for those that don't know, define that.
You know, in the week after we witnessed Derek Chauvin murder George Floyd for those 8 minutes and 37 seconds, there were uprisings. And suddenly my inbox and my phone was blowing up with messages from white people about, oh, I'm so sorry, and Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter. And it just was making me mad because there was nothing real or true about it. And I'm part of a group that I'm not going out right here, right now, because I'm still in that group. But I sat in a meeting with them. I did out them to them, where the morning after one of the uprisings, they, I would have thought somebody would have brought it up, but they didn't. They were talking about the Disneyland China had opened. And then they started singing Muppet songs and talking about their favorite Disney characters. And I was mad, but at the same time, it was like, oh, it's just not part of their reality. Like, I've been up all night watching people be brutalized by the police. They've gone to sleep and woke up and their newsfeed said, Disney China opened and here's Mickey Mouse. And that is their reality. And then.
Were these white people?
Of course.
Okay.
And then about, 30 minutes into the Zoom, we were getting the sort of business aspect of the call where we were being told that, people are searching for answers to the uprisings and what's going on in the world. And if you aren't creating programming that answers that, you run the risk of being tone deaf or complicit. And suddenly, what do I have to do? Is there somebody African-American who can tell us what to do? Can we get an African-American person to speak? And it was like, oh, it means something to you if it's going to affect your bottom line. And I wrote to them and I said, there's something wrong with you. You're sick. I said, if my suffering or Black people's suffering doesn't just make you feel something because it's a human being suffering, something is wrong with you. And I just don't have time for you. And so that was my feeling from the white people. Like, you're saying all these things because you just want to make it go away. You just want to feel better. Like, here's a Band-Aid. Is that enough? What else do you want me to do? What else do you want me to do? But actually nothing synthesizing, nothing changing. Just what do I have to do to make you go away and be nice? Is it money? Can I pay you? What can I do? Just go away so I don't have to be uncomfortable. And I was tired of that. Yeah. And then from the Black people, I was like, I just did the Doris Davenport show in Chicago, and Stephen McKinley Henderson, and there were this multi-generational group of Black people. And one of the elder women, she was like, in my mama's house, my mama runs her house. So I don't get to do what I want in my mama's house. I think we all as Black people know, in my mama runs her house. Right. So it's the idea that we're gonna tell white people how to run their house, it's their damn house, okay? They don't have to give us no theater. If they want, they can just pay some people to come to their living rooms. They got living rooms the size of theaters. So the idea that we're gonna try to tell white people how to run their house, it was just ridiculous to me. Now, and you're not telling us who the white people are that you're telling, and you're not telling us, and if you don't get me. Because that's the only power you got. This is how it's got to be for you to have me. Well, that's all you got. And if you're not saying that and you're not saying who, you're doing the same thing these white people are doing with the Black Lives Matter. So it just boiled.
Yes.
For me.
Yes. Did you consider it though? Did you consider being a part of one of those groups and raising hell and making change and not being there to make friends, but to make change? Did you consider it?
By the time I was approached by the Black groups in 3 different directions, but I wasn't approached in the inception of the idea. I was just approached to sign off on something. And my response was, I cannot sign this because it is not my experience. I do this every day in the moment, not after the fact.
And that's what we have to learn to do. I mean, we can have the groups too. I'm
gonna tell you a group story that it actually comes from Play On.
Okay.
It was a hard lesson for me. In their world, in the gatekeepers' world, they pick and choose which ones of us they're going to let into their rooms.
Yes.
And they're picking the ones that they feel comfortable with. And I always can look at people and tell who they're going to pick. I just have a sense for that, like I know. And so when we were doing Play On, I could tell who they valued and who they didn't of the core company. And so when they decided to go to Broadway, they made me an offer first. And I loved that company so much that I went to the company and I said, you know what, I'm gonna tell them they don't get me unless they get you. And we're gonna make sure that all these deals come up. I wasn't telling anybody what my deal was, but it was like, come up. So when you do something like that, you're also dealing with people's comfort level. How much do they think they're worth? How long can they hold out and say no? Now, I know what the numbers can be because I know what my numbers are. And so, you know, what was there, like 7 of us. So, you know, gradually people got to their level of comfort and they got what they wanted and then they dropped out. And then, but then it got down to, there was maybe 3 of us left. Me, Lawrence, and Cheryl. I knew that they didn't really value those 2 actors. So I knew that I could hold out to get them better deals. So Lawrence finally got to his number where it was like, okay, this is a lot for me and I'm good. And then it was down to me and Cheryl. So we had our agents call, my agent called Cheryl's agent and said, we're going to tell them that actually they put a notice that they were replacing her in the trades.
I remember that.
So we went to them and said, oh, you don't get Tanya if you don't get Cheryl. You just don't get her. And the next thing I know, my name's in the paper being replaced. And Cheryl's not answering my calls anymore. And, you know, we had that Mitchell Maxwell, who was the devil incarnate, as the producer. And, you know, I'm now in the paper and they're telling me we're going to replace you. And Sheldon called me up and we talked it through. And essentially what she had done is she had gone to them and said, well, I'll take Tanya's deal. She don't know what Tanya's deal is. But she made them make some deal whereby I couldn't get more than she got or something like that, which cost me a lot of money. But I decided I wanted to do the job anyway. She did not get to the level that I was trying to get her to, or to even keep her in the show because they were going to replace her. But it was this sense of, okay, you know, I got burned, but it was worth it to me because everybody came up. Everybody got higher than they would have gotten had I not. And so I didn't have any regrets. I love that company. I love that show. And she gave us all hell for the whole time that we were there. And, but, you know, but she had gotten what she believed she wanted, you know, not even knowing what was possible.
Right.
So I understand that that's what happens sometimes.
Right.
And I was still happy because I was happy to be in there in that community of people. And I don't have a regret about what I did.
And so that was your going with the group. That was your last time doing that?
That was my last time deciding I was going to try to hold a group together. Because I saw that, you know, what I can bear and what I can stand, you know, most people don't have that capacity. And so everybody's going to get off at their level. So I was grateful that I brought the group up, but it was like, oh, I'd have to come down to the group's level, which I did. I had to come down to someone's level in order to do that. And I was like, no, I can't be brought down. I'm trying to bring you up. Can't let you bring me down.
Yeah. So that was extremely noble of you to even.
Not noble. It just was like it's just taking care of your own. That's feeding the community.
Yeah, it is.
That's feeding the community.
But now I know everybody's watching this going, boy, she tells the truth.
I do.
She just tells it like it is. And you said something, what was it? That you can't tell the truth in your acting if you don't tell the truth in your life.
Yeah.
And
that's what I work with what Bill was about, living truthfully and fully in imaginary circumstances.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was in law school and they kept saying to me, oh my God, you're going to be a great lawyer because you're such a great actor. And I was like, I'm trying to tell the truth when I'm acting. And they're like, oh my God, the truth does not matter in the law. It's about the proof. And if you can convince someone that 2 + 2 is 5, you've done their job. And that was the end of law school for me. Remember, I was in law school when we were doing, were you in law?
Yeah, I remember that.
I was in law school.
Yeah.
I was in law school and it was like, no. I came to law school because I wanted to be an advocate for the truth and learned that advocacy in the law is not about the truth. It's about the proof. And people don't, you know, pay attention to the fact that lawyers are the only people in court who do not swear an oath to tell the truth, because you can say anything in the service of advocating for your client.
That's right. You know, I appreciate it. I appreciate the truth. It doesn't matter whether I agree with the truth but I prefer somebody to tell me their truth.
Their truth. It's just my truth.
Yeah.
There's somebody else's point of view. I'm sure Cheryl has a different story that I did something, or, you know, she got a story too. It's her truth.
Yeah, yeah. So the manifesto came out of all these phone calls you were getting and just, you know, what had happened in our world. So I just want to share just a few points from it. I encourage everybody to read it. They're making it required reading at Yale. I think it is too, because I do feel that even though I'm cool with groups, I really do feel that we have to learn to have this kind of courage that Tanya is talking about as well. And I think that we have to put ourselves out there to do it from time to time, because that's the only way we're gonna make change. And when she says, I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make change. And I think all of those groups are formed to try to make change, but individually we need to commit to making that change as well. So she said, change does not happen by committee, laws, or rules first. Change is the result of individuals making a choice to stand up. How do you do that if you had 6 callbacks to get in that room? This is your first Broadway show. You are just so happy to be there, and yet you see the gross inaccuracies that are happening in the writing or in the directing. How do you find the courage to stand up in that way when you're not, like you talked about before, you're not the chosen one. You're not the one that they're happy to be there. You don't have a Tony Award yet. What do you do?
I can't tell anybody else what to do, but what I can tell you is how I got to be that way. Mm-hmm. From a very, very young age, I just really was very shy, and I paid attention to people and what they did. And so, you know, when I was sitting at the table with my friends and someone would leave the table and everybody would say nasty things about them, I thought, oh, when I leave the table, that's what they say about me. And so I guess there's been a part of me that, though I've wanted to be in groups, I've always felt a little suspect. Because I look at the behavior and I think how you do anything is how you do everything. So I've never been a part of a group where I felt like there was any sort of cohesiveness that if someone stepped out, there was going to be. So that's just, I come from a place of like, I saw you do that to them, I could be next. In watching the way producers in shows manage people, I understand the way they play off of making people feel exceptional, making other people feel less than. I watch that. I'm very observant. I watch how the most outrageously poorly behaved, tantrum throwing people will be put up on a pedestal because they're controllable. Because if someone will throw a tantrum, that's easy to know what will make them happy. Why am I difficult? I've never thrown a real tantrum. I'm difficult because my no is my no. And if I don't want to do it, there's no amount of money you can pay me to get me to do it. And so that doesn't work for people who believe that everything is for sale. If you believe that you are for sale, or that you are not like the lilies of the field and that you are going to be provided for, then you think you have to get this job. And I don't know why I have that. It's probably because I grew up poor. And some of my happiest moments were just with being poor, and we didn't have no money, but we had a whole lot of fun. And so, and you know, the first times when I started making money, it was just a lot of problems. So trying to have money, it was like that money was a lot of problem and people wanting it. And it was like, oh no, I just want to have my needs met. And because my priority is about my needs met, I have enough. And if being in your room or the hoops I have to jump through to get in there is going to compromise that, Bill Esper said it. If you go into a room and you do what you dreamed of doing in your house and they don't hire you, be grateful. because they didn't value what you brought. And if they bring you in the room, they're going to make you miserable trying to get you to do something other than the thing that excited you and that you were put on the earth to do in the first place. And I've just always accepted that I get the jobs that are mine to get. And I just don't do things for money. I trust that my needs are going to be met. I mean, when I did Caroline or Change, I remember this is a very hard thing that I had 2 small children. I was living in LA. I was substitute teaching. I had finally gotten a full-time teaching job, didn't have very much money. And when they were going to do Caroline, they were gonna, it's a local hire. And I did not have money to fly myself to New York and put myself up. And then I still had to pay my rent in LA and, take care of childcare and all of that. And I remember, I didn't know what I was going to do. There was just no way I could do the job. And I remember Charlene Woodard said, you have to beg George to get you an apartment so that you can come and do that show, because you have to. And beg. And she was like, yes, you have to beg. And she said, when you talk too fast and it makes people nervous. So write down what you're going to say so he can hear you. And like you say, you like truth. I like truth. She told me the truth. And so I wrote down what I had to say, and I wrote to George, and he arranged for me to get an apartment. Now the job was very little money, and all of that money went to, taking care of my children while I was away. But, I just was eating oranges and avocados. That's what I was living on doing the workshop during Caroline when it happened, because I did not have any money. But I knew I needed to do that show in my soul. And it was like, if I got to eat oranges and whatever, I could feel what that show was going to do for me, and money was not going to stop me from doing that.
Yeah, there's so much in that. There's so much to unpack in that. I mean, one, the fact that you had 2 small children, the fact that you still followed your dream, and the fact that you still went after something that you knew inside spiritually that you were meant to do. And oh my goodness, the footprint that you left on that role for doing it, you got a Tony nomination for that role. So your truth seems like it's been guiding you for a very long time.
I do believe that when you follow that instinctive thing that feels right in your body, it's always going to lead you to the next best thing. And I have also had the experience of wanting things and wanting them so much so that I made them happen. Like I was going to shape it into this and that, and getting some of those things and it not being very good for me. So I know that it is possible to get what you want, but sometimes, you can't let your present good become the enemy of your better. So sometimes when it's a little too hard, I'm trying to put the square peg into the round hole, I'm like, okay, let me get out the way and trust that, a way is going to be made that's the way for me.
You can't let your present good become the enemy of your better. Okay, that's my takeaway. I do want to say, though, you mentioned, they say that you're difficult when you speak up and say these things, and I do think that that's a place we gotta come to with women who speak up and tell their truth. That has nothing to do with being difficult. It has everything to do with speaking and telling the truth. You're more difficult to me if you're sitting in the corner saying nothing but feeling those things. And you can't do your work fully because you're pissed off inside because you're not speaking up.
You're always going to be difficult to the person who is not getting their way from you. That's always, you're always going to be difficult if you're not doing what makes someone else happy. And I say, if it's a choice between your happiness and mine, I choose me.
Mm-hmm. Because you said that, I think you said this in your book, like when you have a decision to make of whether or not to, yes, she has a book.
If you want something, the universe always gives you more of the old thing. That is to me, my experience, that is the test of free will. Is it really this new thing you want? Because here's a lot of that other thing. You really this new thing? You gonna take the bird in the hand, or you gonna step out on faith to this thing you say you want? That's just been my experience. Like you set a new intention, a lot of the old things come. You get the opportunity to stand solidly in the past, in the present good, but stepping out and trusting that something better is there for you because of the fact you have a desire for it. That is the sign that it is there for you. You have the desire for it.
Yeah. Yep, that's your sign. But and also the part that stood out to me is you said that if you have a chance to stand up and you want to speak out to about something, the way that you decide whether you're going to speak out is if you can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning by yourself and feel good about not speaking up or speaking up.
Or live with it, just live with it. I was speaking to a friend in Singapore and she was saying, oh, I have such admiration of you and I just don't have the nerve to do that. And I was like, honey, you're in Singapore. They disappear people. They kill people who speak up. Of course you don't speak up there.
Right.
Okay? We don't live in the same circumstances. You might not get a 3 o'clock in the morning to wake up to. So you have to, you have to, and then at the same time you go, the Arab Spring was because this seller in Egypt was so fed up with being oppressed that he set himself on fire. It set off the Arab Spring. Okay, he martyred himself. If you are trusting that your life, that there is a fate and there's something you were put here to do, whatever you do is going to be right. If you don't have a faith in that something, nothing you do is going to be right because you're going to always be second guessing it anyway. And that's just an unhappy place to live.
You say that you talk about what standing up has cost some of our greats, Paul Robeson, Eartha Kitt, Horn. You talk about what it cost them.
Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, of course. What's it cost you?
In hindsight, I don't think anything, but in the moment, it's definitely cost me jobs. People who hired someone else who probably wasn't as good as me, but they thought that would be an easier person. People telling people not to hire me. Yeah, really just that. And certainly there are probably things that I don't know that it cost me because I wasn't there. But I also have that faith that I'm in the rooms I'm supposed to be in. And so it's gotten to the point where now often when people offer me a job, I think, you know what? I'm not going to do me to them. They're not ready to have my energy in the room. So I'm going to say no to that.
So it hasn't cost you peace.
No, it has not cost me any peace. Now, do I sometimes get frustrated and go, damn, why couldn't I be like, and I'm like, because you can't, because you're not. You're not like, and you can't be like, okay, you can argue with reality, but you're going to lose 100% of the time. But certainly I ask myself, well, why couldn't you just say the thing? Because you can. Because you can't. I know sometimes there's shows that I haven't done, and it's because when I think about them, I think I'd have to leave the theater like this. I'd have to go run. When I get a feeling like I'm gonna have to hide when I come running out the theater, I'm like, you can't even do that job. I don't care how much money it is. There've been many a Broadway show that I've said no to because I was like, I'll just be humiliated to have to walk out. I won't even know what to say to people about why I'm here doing this. That I can't live with.
That would take your peace.
That would take my peace.
Yeah.
Not having money does not take my peace. Okay, I can be happy poor.
Yeah. We need to know that too. I was gonna ask you. I was gonna say, Tanya, did you participate in the protests? Did you march? Did you get out? And then the more I thought about asking you that question, and I thought about your manifesto, I thought, well, that's your protest. That's a form of protest to me. That's what it was, among many other things. But how were you feeling around that time when the kids were doing their thing and making us proud and out there?
I am so grateful for all those young people because it's their world. My time has passed. My world is gone. They got to make the world they want. They got to tear this one down and build a better one. And hopefully they will not even care how we made one, make one that is of their dream and design. Doesn't have to look like ours at all. I did try to go out one day with my daughter, and we got into a little argument about, you know, proper ways to be out there. So I carried myself back home because I was going to be doing my social distancing and my mask and my gloves, and was like, no, we're not going, nope, I'm going to go on home. But I also, you know, I went to the Million Man March. I don't particularly like crowds, but because I've spent so much time in the subreddits and in the manosphere and spending time following the right-wing organizations, which is a lot of what inspired Red Pill, is understanding how they operate, how motivated and coordinated they are in getting things done. I have felt very strongly that being in a concentrated group like that, as powerful and important as it is, it ends up being about martyrdom. That, you know, as we see people get killed, it activates more people. But I sort of also follow Robert Johnson, who wrote Negroes with Guns. And will tell you the story that you don't often hear, that a lot of the times when Martin Luther King and his freedom riders were walking, there were Negroes with guns who were keeping them safe. And when there weren't Negroes with guns, they were getting the shit kicked out of them. So I'm a Negro with a gun. And I want to be on the outside of the protesters. When them other people come to harm them, I'm on the outside of that to deal with that.
I get that. But you're doing your work on the inside too. We don't have a whole lot of time left because I could be here all day with you, thinking about Bill and losing him. And I think about him a lot. What would Bill think about all the stuff you're doing? What are you doing today that you think Bill would really love that?
I don't know. You know, interestingly, I remember I had my first child in my first year at Bill's thing, and afterwards he was like, don't have any more children because, you know, your career will suffer because, you know, while you're trying to raise your child, all these other actors their careers will go on and they'll surpass you and you'll never be able to catch up. And in a way that's true. You know, Viola and Angela and all those people are people I came up with, but I've got children that I got to birth from my body, and there's this incredible thing, and they've got children, they had them in a different way. But I really value the thing that I got to have. I value it a lot more than a job or an award or a lot of money. So I chose the life that was based on my values. I grew up in a family with 5 living generations. So I think he would just respect that I did not take his advice and that I have a really good life.
And let us not forget to mention your podcast. Check out the podcast, y'all. It's called You Can't Say That. Now I guess you can from being with us in this time, you can probably imagine what that's like.
You can say anything you want on my podcast.
Yes. So please check that out as well. And Tanya has a book. And the book is called, tell us what the book is.
Yourself, How to Drop the Drama and Claim the Life You Deserve.
One, you know, the last chapter in the book is entitled Success is Inevitable. Is it inevitable? And how do you define the success that's inevitable?
You know, if you get out of the way, I mean, we're all going out the same way. So you can't get it wrong. You can't get it wrong. And I think if more of us could just embrace life exactly as it is, amor fati, it's called, embracing our faith, loving our fate, we would experience the success that our life is exactly as it is.
So we lost John Lewis, and huge loss. But John Lewis talked about getting in good trouble.
I get in a lot of good trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I get in a lot of good trouble. And you know what? Sometimes when I'm getting in good trouble, I realize that I am an instrument of something in someone's life. There's that little placard that they sell on the street in New York. I'm not a bitch, but I play one in your life. I often find that, you know what? You needed a dragon today, and I got to be it. Let me tell you this crazy story. Me and my neighbor were walking down the Hudson, and we were looking at the flowers, and she was teaching me about flowers, and this voice said, "Don't pick the flowers." And I turned around and just went from 0 to 100, fire-bringing dragon at this white woman, and like, "Don't you tell us what to do." And she didn't back down. She came forward and like, you. And I was like, "You, Becky, you, Karen, get out of our business. Don't tell us what to do." And then my neighbor turned around and realized she knew her.
Oh.
So then when the woman realized she knew her, she started making up a new story. "Oh, I was trying to make a joke because I wanted to see my friend and her friend." Anyways, we stopped, and my friend was like, considering the world, this is in the middle of the uprisings, I know how that went from 0 to 60. So we've all calmed it down. And she was like, "Well, I don't." And she walked away. She was not going to take an apology, nothing. So we're walking along. My neighbor is a really good-spirited person, and it was bothering her. So when the woman turned around to come back, she walked over again to say, "You two are both very powerful women, and you should know each other." And the woman wouldn't even let her speak. And she was like, no, you're going to listen to me. No, you're going to listen to me. You people, you think you're stressed. We're stressed. And it was just like this. She just went into this thing. And I'm sitting and I'm watching him like, and this is an opportunity right now for us to work through this because we can talk this through. And she was not having it. She was getting more and more agitated. And I was like, "Well, ma'am, you thought I was awful. Someone more awful is going to come into your life after me because you're not taking this opportunity to work through this right now." And I'm sure I'm going to hear, because this is someone who works in the mayor's office, that another dragon came. But I was aware that I was this dragon force that was actually saying, "Hey, look, you're feeling stressed because you got to deal with all these Black people things. Well, here's some Black people who are feeling stressed, and you can talk to one and figure out how are you going to manage that." Opportunity missed. She's probably thinking at work that she needed to do that, and there was an opportunity, because that's de Blasio's got to be dealing with that all day long, and she missed her opportunity as I'm saying it to her. And then she starts mocking me and making faces, and it was crazy. It was really crazy. But I was like, it was in that moment I was like, oh, I was there to present to her this other option. So she decided she didn't want to take that option. It'll come around again.
Yeah,
it'll be a bigger dragon than I was. It'll be bigger, and it'll be in a more, the consequences will be greater.
Yeah, it will come around again. What are you scared of? Are you still, what makes you, what are you fearful of? Anything in life? Except for singing in the play on?
I think a lot of my fears are for my children. I think that, most of my fears are, and I have no control over that. They get to live their own lives. I think that is the beauty of Mother Courage, and what I think no one has ever seen in the role of Mother Courage. That what Brecht did was he wrote a piece that is about what it is for every mother. That every mother would do anything and everything to protect her children's lives, but your children are not yours, and they get to make decisions that may cost them their lives. And I think people invalidate mothers so much that he couldn't have set that in a normal situation. He had to set it in a war. And even in setting it in a war, people want to make her into a monster and a mercenary, and that's not the truth of her. She is just a mother who loves her children. And so Brandon Jacob Jenkins and I have been working on whether we can do what I think is an authentic telling of the Mother Courage story. My greatest fears are really for my children. And, I have my shadow things that are places where I'm stuck. Certain kinds of men, it's a reflexive kind of thing where I just get into a helpless, I can't speak my mind, I can't assert myself. And, you know, right now in my film, I've got like not just in my film, but right now, I had like a trifecta of them. And I've been just trying to, you know, move into the shadow and doing a lot of disciplines and spiritual work to go, so where does that come from? What's the origin? Okay, how are you going to move that? Because it's showing up. This is showing up for you to face. So, you know, when a situation keeps showing up in my life, I'm like, okay, it's a lesson for me. Okay, it's probably going to hurt. And part of that with each of them was like, well, what are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that they could do to you? And having to let myself emotionally go to the worst thing, because what I realized before is like, well, I don't want to, I don't even want to think about it. I just want to. And then it was like, okay, so what's the worst that could happen? Let's get into the worst that could happen, and trying to make peace with, can I survive the worst thing that could happen in this situation? And so that is a discipline that I try to bring myself with, and sometimes it's harder than others. But ultimately, that's the only way I know to move the fear, is to move to the worst possible thing and try to make peace with that. I mean, and, you know, with my children, sometimes that's meant, it's like, you know, what if I can't keep them on the planet? You know, what if I can't keep them on the planet? And how would I go on? Because in my first thoughts, well, if one of my kids goes, then I got to go. I can't go on. But I got 3 other ones. I don't care. They'll be fine. I can't go on if I lose one, you know, and having to move into that space of like, how do you go on when the worst thing you've imagined could happen?
Yeah. Well, I pray that doesn't happen, but I know that having boys in this day and age, it's hard not to consider those things. I will keep good energy and prayers coming your way for that. And I got a 2-year-old, so I have that, and he's not even but I think about it for him too.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun? What does Tonya Pinkins do for fun?
I like to watch horror.
Of course, yes. And soon to be at the drive-in.
I read a lot. I listen to music. That's my fun. And I travel. I mean, my most favorite thing in the world to do, which the pandemic has stopped, is I like to go to other countries and just sit there and absorb the culture and meet people and absorb the way other people live. I think that I'm never happier than when I'm in another country, just absorbing the way they live. That is my happiest thing.
Everybody, you have experienced just an hour of this brilliant woman. You know, the one thing that as actors we are supposed to do, we are called to do, a challenge to do, is to observe behavior. And she says that she likes to go to other countries to observe people. And I think that's a part of her brilliance as well. So I'm so grateful that you took this time with me.
Oh, Angela, it is so lovely to connect with you again. I'm just always the most beautiful spirit and soul, and so amazingly talented. And I'm so happy you have a little baby and getting to have there, and just blessings on all of the wonderful joy that you have in your life, and continued success and prosperity and peace.
Thank you. And continue truth. Continue the truth. It blesses all of us, and we grow from it. We're growing. So thank you, sister.
Thank you.
You hear it, you feel it, they need it. You write it, you sing it, it's healing. You're different and here for a reason. It's heart and spirit.